This time last year, John Aloisi's credentials were being questioned by all and sundry, really. Fast forward to the end of the season, wins the title with an expansion club. Thomas, you know him well. You were commentating with him 15 or so months ago, done a lot of media work with him. What was the secret to his success?
I think the bottom line is he's a great person. I think players can feed off his energy, and he's a great manager. I think there was a lot of mess to be cleaned up when he went into Western United, at least in his words, and I think the recruitment has been really good. Yeah. Jamie Young, obviously at the back, was crucial for them. Lacroix. And Prijovic up front. I think so. Just getting that spine of the team right, I think was crucial. And then he went in, trying to get some confidence back in the squad. It wasn't pretty early on. I think just all the 0-0s and 1-0s, and people weren't too impressed. But then slowly you could just see that team develop into the title-winning side that they ended up being.
He's come a long way as a coach, hasn't he? I mean, Zappa, you were covering the Melbourne games when he was at Melbourne Heart back in the day, and it was a really tough start for him. Brisbane, he did okay. I thought he was hugely underrated over there, but he's really come on, hasn't he?
Yeah, at Melbourne Heart, I think he'd be the first to recognise that he probably wasn't ready for that senior role, and he found the going really tough there. And then he got another opportunity at Brisbane, and I thought his record at Brisbane was harshly judged upon by the history books. But then we thought he wasn't going to get another chance, and that hunger for coaching was there. He's a football person, and in the off season he would go to Spain and visit his old contacts in Spain and meet former players that he played with who are in big positions in Europe. So that hunger's always been there, and there's been a long time coming for him to get this other opportunity. And there was a point where we thought he wouldn't get the opportunity. So credit to Western United and the chairman there for giving him that chance, because he's proven he can be a great coach.
And you would have sensed that in the commentary box and in the Optus studios. Yeah, he was always hungry to get back into it.
Yeah, for sure. And I think the most important part was, I think that whole experience you just explained humbled him. I think he sort of realised that, you had to go about things in a certain way. He was more mature to go into that Western United role. And I think that the whole way he's tackled the problems, the recruitment and the players, I think he took a different angle. And I think that's the key to the success.
So Friday, October 7, Zappa, we'll see you on the sidelines with Network 10, I believe, for the grand final replay, Western United versus City, Amy Park, same place, same venue. There'll be spice in this one, won't there?
Absolutely. Melbourne City will feel like they've got something to prove. They finished the home and away season on top of the table last year and then lost the grand final. So Patrick Isnorbo has been really busy in the off-season. He's brought in some recruits, which I think will add a lot to their team. We'll talk a little bit more about Melbourne City later. But they've got a point to prove, Melbourne City. They were beaten in the grand final on the big day, on the big stage. And they finished top last season, and they'll feel that they underachieved last year, Thomas.
Yeah, for sure. The way I think they were handsomely beaten in that final, and well deserved from Western United. I know for a fact that they're hungry to revenge it. And what a way to start the A-League season with that replay. I can't wait for it.
Thomas, World Cup, it's near. Western United, they haven't had much joy when it comes to Socceroos selection, but Josh Risdon, he was the starting right back for the Socceroos 4 years ago, did pretty well matching up against the likes of Kylian Mbappe and against Denmark and so on. Hasn't really been in the frame lately, but then you've got Lockie Wales and Ben Garuccio who have been on standby, we believe. Can you see them or any other of those Western United players breaking into that Socceroos squad?
I think it's on the fringe. I think you probably need some injuries, to get a chance. The issue is that you've got 5-6 games of the A-League before the squad is announced, and it's not a lot of time to show some consistency, to show some great form, especially not as a defender. But who knows? You got a Joel King who plays at my old team in Denmark, doesn't play regularly. Is he under threat? So there are some opportunities. Atkinson as well. He's probably more secure in the squad. So there are a few openings, but I think Sabas, you will probably agree with me there. I think it's a long shot for any of them.
Risdon's an interesting one because he was a big part of that 2018 squad, but he has had a lot of injuries since then, and he missed a lot of football in 2 seasons ago, and came back and was really important for Western United last season. But if you isolate that right back position, you look at the two players that are there at the moment. Fran Karacic, who's playing at Brescia in the Serie B. He plays every week. Brescia are top of the Serie B. So that's a good competition, high level, and he's playing regularly and starting regularly for Brescia. And then you've got Nathaniel Atkinson, as you mentioned. So he's at Hearts. They're playing in Europe. So there's regular game time. They've already played a dozen games this season. So he's already a dozen games ahead of those playing in the A-League. And he might not start every week, but because they're in Europe, he's playing 2 games a week. So those players that have moved to Scotland, we've seen quite a few of them, have a head start against those who are playing in the A-League.
And then you've got someone like a Degenek who can play, slot into a right-back position too. But Risdon had a big grand final, so it shows you that he is a big game player, so he certainly wouldn't look out of place. Speaking of big game players, Alessandro Diamanti, a guy you know very well, Zappa. Tell us about, we always see his, fun, eccentric side. He would have been hurting last year, missing the end of that season. I know he tried really hard to get up for the grand final. What would he have felt? What can we expect from him this season?
He's worked really hard in the off-season. I know he spent a lot of time in Italy, and he was with medical teams in Italy, working really hard every day to get that knee right, and he missed a lot of football last year. And for a 39-year-old to miss a lot of football, it's going to be very hard for him to come back and be a starting regular for Western United. Interesting that John Aloisi announced his captains yesterday, and Alessandro Diamanti was named as captain. So that, to me, indicates he's going to be playing some football this year. He is a spiritual leader in that change room, no doubt about that. His experience playing for the Italian national team, playing for big teams all over the world. Yes, he's a spiritual leader, but to be a captain, you need to be able to produce on the park, Thomas, as well.
Yeah, and I think that's going to be the question. Does he have the legs? I think you could sort of slightly see that, running away from him. No question about his quality, and you gotta love him on the park. It's just his charisma and that the pass and the vision that he has. So I think that's the big question mark. Great to hear that he's been working in the off season, getting that fitness, and we know and what we can expect if he's still got a few kilometres left in the wheels.
I think he's still got a few tricks up his sleeve. A final quick prediction on Western United, boys.
Oh, they'll make finals, but I think they'll finish outside the top 2 this year.
Thomas?
Yeah, I think, again, it's different when you're being chased. I think that's the big question mark. Now they got the expectations. They were coming from the back last year. So, again, I agree. I think just 3 or 4, I think that's where they will finish.
The big question for me will be Alexander Prijovic, because it was strongly rumoured that he was not going to come back to the team. I think he had offers on the table from clubs in Europe, and Western United said, no, you've got another year to run on your contract. You need to come back. So he missed pre-season. He's only been here for a few weeks. The attitude that we see from him in the first few weeks will tell us a lot. He was terrific for them in the finals. That's when he peaked. So he may do the same this year. But just to see what sort of shape he's in and how he approaches the early part of the season will be fascinating for me to see.